everyone, this is Callimara here, and no, it's not calamari. Welcome back to my channel, or if you are new to the pond, go ahead and take a dive. You might like it here. We're only a month into 2025 and I'm already making a drama video. It's a great time. This year is the year of the snake, which is the perfect time for this video to come out because, well, apparently everyone here in the art commentary community is just a bunch of traitorous snakes.
Anytime I have ever helped anyone in the Art CC, I kept them at arm's length because I know all too well that they are snakes. Helping someone in the Art CC is like nursing a snake back to health. It doesn't matter what you do for a snake, it's still gonna bite ya as it injects its venom into you.
So it's our time to shine, baby. But before we begin, allow me to explain why this video is being made and clarify a few things, lest people get the wrong idea. First of all, this is not a tea video, nor is this video a coverage of the Cindy Bear situation in which Just a Robot, our person of interest, was heavily involved. In fact, I will not be discussing Cindy at all because while yes, his defense video on her was the catalyst to his own cancellation, hundreds of other channels have already discussed it with much greater depth, and the whole situation has already reached its conclusion, so I'm not gonna beat a dead horse. I love horses, I would never do that. This video is strictly about Just a Robot, aka Jar. However, please do not send hate or harass anyone mentioned in this video. As for why I'm making this video and why I'm choosing to focus on Jar and only Jar in this situation is because for one part of the allegations thrown at him, that being the Vidcon incidents, I was actually physically there and experienced everything that went down firsthand when it happened. You guys know that I don't really talk about drama unless A, I feel the topic is particularly important, B, I am personally involved in said situation, and C, there is grave misinformation being spread around. And this situation pretty much ticks the boxes for all three, and that is why I feel comfortable speaking on this, and I believe there is a wider conversation to be had about certain behaviors that should and should not be tolerated just because one suffers from a mental disability that I have yet to see people talk about, and Jar's justification about these behaviors in general. Let's put a pin in that for now though. What I will be discussing in this video is not secondary information heard from other people. This is my personal recounting of the events that unfolded during both VidCon 2023 and 2024 to try and clear up the immense amounts of false information being thrown out there because, in case you didn't know, I went to California both years to meet up and spend time with some creator friends like Fiona Polo, Mally Malware, Harley TBS, Streamline Workshop, and Ponder Sprocket, to name a few. To verify my claim, you can see my stupid little face all over Mally's VidCon vlog.
We've lost the child.
And hear my annoying little voice in Ponder's vlog as well.
I'm so annoyed.
And in case Jar is watching this video, I'd like to state explicitly that no, we were not, quote, holding a grudge on you or waiting for the right moment to release this information on you, like, say, now, when you're being cancelled hardcore because you outed yourself for not even doing bare minimum research before opening your yap about a clear-cut grooming case. And in fact, I distinctly recall Jar saying in his interview with Cindy that he writes his script first before he does his research. And unless I'm misunderstanding, that is absolutely wild to me.
I've gone back and forth in my videos so much. I made it really quickly and then realized, oh, I need to find the evidence, and then I had to change this, I had to change that, I had to change this, and I had to change that. And once I finally had a video all lined up so I could like look through it and fact check it, I was like, oh my god, like I'm so low energy because like I don't really believe in what I'm saying.
But you know what? Considering how most of his videos go, namely how he gives the most surface level takes and talks more in depth when he's making the situation about his own experiences, because either he can't go 5 minutes without talking about himself, or that's really the only thing he can talk about with confidence, that also makes a lot of sense.
I have people doing that to me because of because my thumbnail had a cupcake in it. I don't regret that. That was fucking hilarious.
So let's get this out of the way and just dispel the narrative altogether because the whole VidCon thing wasn't even made public by us. Here are the facts. When it happened the first time in VidCon 2023, because yes, this was not a one-time thing, all of the art commentary girls unanimously agreed that we would not make our interaction with Jar public. ever. If we were to talk about it, we would never name Jar specifically and make it vague enough so that people won't know we were referring to him, like what Ponder did in her VidCon vlog. And the reason for this? Deadass, you are not that important to us and you're just not worth the trouble. Jar, sincerely, we do not think about you enough to be plotting your downfall. All we wanted during both VidCons was to be left alone by you, and both times you did not respect that boundary. No means no, Jar, and we could not have been clearer with you that we did not want to interact with you over things you did that made us feel uncomfortable and unsafe to have you around us, which I will discuss more in depth further in the video. Right, so with that out of the way, how did this whole damn thing become public? Essentially, it was kind of a game of telephone because when it happened, Jar himself had told Leo Convoy about what transpired at VidCon. And after that, from what I understand, Leo told Kumo, and then Kumo was the one to bring it up publicly in interviews. First in Himpleton's stream, and then again in Chud Logic's stream. And what do you know? Not a single ArtCC girlie was involved. This situation, frankly, was taken completely out of our hands. It was made public without our permission because we never wanted this to be public in the first place. And now it's being used by Jar, even though he was the one that told Leo about this in the first place, to try and poison the public perspective on the art commentary community even further. And don't even get me started on Jar's hate boner for the ACC. If you want to talk about being obsessed, Jar, you ought to look in a mirror because you bring up the ACC constantly.
Well, that's why I hate ArtCC people. They're insanely backstabby, like insanely so. Like you can't be friends with them. Ultimately, we have one common enemy, and that's the ArtCC and how they manipulate people. Like they seem all nice and wholesome, and then they suddenly.
No, yeah, I think the art commentary community is like extremely fucking predatory.
So I have a lot of videos on the ArtCC planned out. Wait, what's the ArtCC? And to be honest, that's a very good question. Unless, of course, you're a huge fan of mine who's seen every single one of my videos. If you've seen my videos on Doodle Tones, Hopeless Peaches, Creepshow Art, along with all the other YouTubers I've talked about.
And that's just the things he says publicly. He also talks a load of shit about people who have directly told him to keep their name out of his mouth behind the scenes as well, which, I don't know about you, Jar, sounds a lot like snaky behavior. One rule for thee and another for me, eh? The projection on this man is painfully obvious because let's not forget, this is the guy who claims he collects dirt on every single person in his community like he's Batman with his freaking contingency plan.
Like, I have stuff like, on a lot of ArtCC people I've been gathering, I actually have a folder called Tower of Babel. Yes, that is a Batman reference. Yes, that is a Batman reference, and, that's actually why I made the video on Daft Pina, because, like, I looked at his folder and I was like, holy shit, this is a lot.
God.
Since I never interacted with you, I actually don't have anything in your folder.
Sorry, what about a folder?
Oh, okay, you don't get it. Okay, so do you know about the DC comic Tower of Babel?
I don't.
Batman's computer gets hacked by, I believe, Ra's al Ghul, and basically Batman on his computer had a file called Tower of Babel, and in that file was a bunch of folders on each of the Justice League members with, like, a list of all of their weaknesses and how to take them down. Yeah, I have that, but for ArtCC people.
That makes sense why Batman would have that. That's really smart.
I have one on Ponder, I have one on Oranges, I have one on everyone.
And frankly, this situation really became a doomed if you did, doomed if you don't for us because, well, why didn't you talk about this earlier? Why did you wait this long to talk about it? It seems awfully convenient that you're talking about this now, while we're also simultaneously being criticized for being messy drama mongers who can't keep anything offline. So how do you win in that situation? You can't. You're just taking an L either way. And, you know, it's not the nicest feeling in the world to be generalized like that, especially when you didn't even do the things people say you did. Because, yes, while we have had our share of bad actors, so does literally every other content community on YouTube. Does that mean the entire community is toxic and predatory? No, because if it was, then the gaming community should pretty much be dismantled at this point. Jar likes to paint out the art commentary community as this drama-filled wasteland where people are constantly stabbing each other in the back. And I think the funniest example of this was during his interview with Cine, when they were discussing Jack, and Jar specifically states,
in that video you said you were moving in with Birdie, and like when I heard you bring that up I was like, well, this is going to be entertaining in a year.
Oh.
So that's exactly what I thought, because I was like, oh, two ArtCC people underneath the same roof. What could possibly go wrong?
Fuck.
I don't mean to sound bigoted, but anytime you people move in with one another, it doesn't go well. I mean you people as in ArtCC, this corner of the internet kind of people. Autistic gooners.
And the reason I find this funny was because about 7 to 10 of us art commentary girls literally stayed in the same Airbnb for a whole week, 2 years in a row for Vidcon, and it was literally the best time of our lives. We constantly tell each other, even to this day, how much we missed living under the same roof together. So I hate to tell you this, Jar, but you're just wrong, and I think perhaps you should consider that the reason you keep encountering untrustworthy individuals who stab you in the back is because those are the kinds of people you choose to network with. Listen, this is kind of a back office talk, but it is widely known among creators in this community that Jar only networks with people he thinks can benefit him in some way, shape, or form. Like, unless you have some sort of clout or sway as a creator, then Jar will not give you the time of day. His measure of whether or not you are worthy of his time is not your character or what kind of work you do or, I don't know, the good you've done for the community, but rather just how much clout you have, really. And it's not even something Jar can refute, because it's something he has been confronted about and admitted to in a call with Leo Convoy shortly after Jar started getting heat for his video.
You have to learn to start treating people like people, because Jar, you don't. Because you don't even treat me like a person. And let's go ahead and be completely on board here. While you have done me some favors that I did appreciate, I have done more for you than just about any other person you can name, save maybe Dreadlock, because he's your roommate. I have gone to bat for you. I have gotten in calls with other creators to help you out because you were trying to resolve conflicts with them without it blowing up. I do all these things for you, not because I want a bigger YouTuber to owe me, I don't care, but because I thought at the time it was the right thing to do. And to a point, maybe I should. But I'm not done, because I need to get here. And then, all the stuff with me happens. And you know what? I can understand people wanting to make some distance from me if I'm in hot water to a point. I get it. Jar, me being quote-unquote canceled does not mean I am dead. Does not mean you couldn't ask my opinion and things. Doesn't mean you can't ask my thoughts. So, my irritation with this is, number one, the only reason you're doing this series of videos is because 2 other YouTubers gave you grief and pushed you into it. One thing I didn't mention, Jar, because I need to talk about it, and I'm going to segue with it now. I had support from actual friends. People who didn't just want to use me for content. And that's the problem you have, Jar. With the exception of maybe Dreadlocks, I don't know if you have friends. Because you certainly didn't treat me like one. Period. You have a tendency of waiting until you see how things are going to play out before you jump into something. You don't treat people like people, and you don't treat your friends like friends. But you take, like, smaller issues you had, like with Susie, and you blow it all the way up because you have a grudge against these people. Jar, I've said this before, I'll say it again, you need to go to therapy. Not just for the paranoia you have, but also for your genuine anger issues.
I know. My roommate has told me multiple times that I need therapy, and I just can't afford it right now.
That's
but
fine.
I do.
Again, I'm going to... Go ahead.
Every time I go to bed and I'm about to fall asleep, I just feel angry about sometimes things that have happened 10 years ago, and sometimes I feel like revenge is the only thing that keeps me going.
Oh, also, I want to clarify something else that Jar said in his video. Basically, Jar said that Ponder claimed he laughed maniacally after squeezing her hand, or at the very least he worded it in a way that, to a lot of people watching the video, including myself, made it seem like she was the one that spread this rumor. First of all, as one of the people that Ponder was waiting to meet up with when she had that encounter with Jar, I can verify that the story she told minutes after it happened and now is still the same. Jar did not laugh like some maniacal villain after his interaction with Ponder. That's simply not true, and that was never part of her story because it was not Ponder that made that claim. It was Kumo.
He wanted to meet up with like big art names like Streamline Workshop and Ponder Sprocket in like this art space, and he wasn't taking no from for an answer from them. And then he showed up at VidCon and like with a terrible fake accent and like spoke to them. They didn't know it was him, and then he like spoke in his real voice and walked away and scared the shit out of them. And he like manically laughed while walking away.
Before I could even properly process what this person had said, my mouth screams out, "Oh God!" I don't know what that said to them in the moment, but after I yelled that again, like a creeper, they squeezed my hand, smiled, and then walked away. And I'm just sitting there like, what the fuck just happened? Was that real? Did I pass out? Am I hallucinating?
And that's why it was so detrimental to all of us, Jar included, I guess, to have some guy who wasn't there, wasn't even involved in the situation, and never even confirmed with us about what happened before telling the story for us. Because then you get weird embellishments like that and it just muddies the water, and that is why I'm speaking out about this. So let me give you a breakdown of what really happened with Jar during both Vidcon 2023 and 2024, at least from our perspective. Though just be warned, because it's really nothing crazy or outrageous, but I guess that depends on what you view as crazy or outrageous, because it gets pretty weird and uncomfortable. But it's mostly funny now that we can look back on it. To begin, I'd like to start off by saying that I am not open to being contacted for interviews or to discuss my experience further, because frankly, I am not the main affected party in this, and I do have real-life obligations that take up a lot of my time and attention. In case you didn't know, I am in medical school, so I have a lot of exams and assignments to do while also keeping up my YouTube content to pay for my medical education. And I would rather not have this take up more of my life than what I am already allowing for this video. I'm just gonna lay it all out in this video and leave it at that. If Jar responds to me, depending on the response, I may or may not make a follow-up. But otherwise, I just really like to put me and my friend's perspective out there and forget about this foolishness. Now, keep in mind this is just my experience of the shit that went down during Vidcon TM. And while I was there in person when it happened and Mally confided in us directly at the time, I would like to emphasize that the events I will be recounting did not happen to me directly. So if you want to hear from the people it happened directly to, I highly recommend watching this video from Cope and Seethe, because he interviews Mally and a few other people who had unpleasant interactions with Jar. In fact, I was also supposed to be part of this interview to corroborate the events being told, but because of scheduling conflict, I couldn't make it. Ponder Sprocket is also working on a video regarding this topic to talk about her perspective, especially since Jar addresses her directly in his video, so keep an eye out for that as well. So what happened in the 2023 incident with Ponder was around the time we were supposed to leave for Vidcon. Jar posted the thumbnail for his upcoming video about Spocter, wherein he depicts Spocter as EDP-445 during the infamous cupcake confrontation, shall we say. During this time, the circle of creators I belonged to were still on amicable terms with Jar. I personally never really became friends with Jar, though he did try to build that bridge with me. I didn't really vibe with him. I was cordial, don't get me wrong, but I think after I moved away from drama commentary, which would have been when the whole Peaches and Creepshow art situation was going down, Jar pretty much just lost interest in being my friend, which isn't an issue because, to be fair, I also was not trying very hard to be his friend, so we pretty much stopped talking to each other. There wasn't an argument or a fallout or anything, we just mutually ghosted each other, for lack of a better word. The last time we spoke was literally December 21st, 2021, when he was about to upload his video addressing his past. He asked me to comment on his video, but I don't remember whether or not I did end up commenting on it. If I didn't, maybe that was why he ghosted me. But going back on topic here, because our circle still considered Jar a friend at the time, a couple of people, namely Harley TBS and Mally Malware, obviously showed concern over the implications and potential fallout his thumbnail could have not only on Spocter, but to himself as well. They had a pretty lengthy argument on Twitter, which ended with Jar burning bridges with Harley. I was there reading the thread live as it happened, and it was definitely an interesting read, but I genuinely think that both Mally and Harley had good intentions and were only trying to help him because they know about his disability. Wow, another instance in which Jar's refusal to listen to other people blew up in his face? Who would have thought? Anyway, because Mally still held the opinion that his thumbnail was bad, and I do very much agree with the opinion that the thumbnail was in poor taste at best and falsely accusatory at worst, Jar started insisting that Mally hop in VC with him so they can talk about it. I distinctly recall that his reasoning for this is because he can't read or articulate tone very well over text. However, at the time all of this was happening, Mally was running a booth at a different con. Yes, she went to 2 different conventions in 2 different continents in a row, so she declined his offer. Jar proceeded to claim it was because she was scared to jump into VC with him, even though Mally was literally occupied with living her life offline and told him as much. And yet another example of Jar not listening to people and not taking no for an answer. Anyway, the video then actually comes out and Mally tells him the video was also shit, and Jar's justification was, well, Peaches and Leo looked at it and they said it was good. Jar shows the following screenshots in his video as well, but he pretty much glosses over them and doesn't address much of what is said in them. So I'd like to make a point to actually read them out, because clearly Jar hasn't learned from his first mistake of only skimming and not reading properly, and therefore fails to understand what the actual issue is.
I'm not going to read that much text from someone I barely know. That's way too much work. Reading gives me a massive headache.
Master researcher Jar, everyone. And yeah, I know he has dyslexia. Yet somehow dyslexic people still manage to graduate university and work in research, which requires a lot of reading. All I'm saying is, research and reading is literally 80 to 90% of his chosen profession, so I don't know. Either work on yourself and fight that uphill battle or find something else to do. Anyway, on to the DMs. On June 20th, 2023, Jar says, "Yep, both Peaches, Leo, and others who you more than likely don't know." I'll ask them why they gave the go-ahead then. I don't really think talking your video with them makes sense because it's your video, but maybe they'll have something to say about why they thought it was fine. Well, if you would like to talk it out in VC with me, then we can. I don't articulate myself well over text. I'm still in transit at the moment. Haven't gone to the Airbnb yet, but maybe once we're settled. Although I'm not sure there'll be time for VC stuff during Vidcon. Not only is Jar still trying to get Mally into VC with him at an inconvenient time here, because according to the date, this would be when we would have been traveling to Vidcon, and Mally is flying in from Australia. His defense just doesn't address anything. Dude, I don't know about you, but we are all capable of free and critical thinking, yes? And the fact that at least one of those people you mentioned is now known for their horrible judgment calls, and the other one is hopeless fucking Peaches. Says everything you need to know about your video, actually. And speaking of horrible judgment calls, this was also the chat where he would then ask to meet up with Mally at VidCon and proceed to make the incredibly uncomfortable joke of, maybe you could come to the hotel room with me, lol, JK. No way, I'm not gonna spend VidCon time on that sort of thing. I wanna focus on holiday stuff. Did you see the last message? Sent at the same time as my message, lol. But also, still no way. Fuck. Well, I still would like to meet you. I do hold your opinion as high as Peaches and Leo's, but they do not like Spoctor at all, so they might have had a lapse in thinking. I just haven't seen anyone say, you went too hard on Spoctor until you came along. Hell, most people said I went too soft on the guy. Like, Jar, I know you're autistic, but if it is this bad and you know it is that bad and you're still not getting socialization training, that is gross negligence on your part. You are a grown-ass man. Sort yourself out. This is coming from someone who is also autistic, but you wouldn't know that aside from my random bursts of hyperfixation sometimes because I actually got socialization training. And so have many other people in your position with autism. See, Jar, it's possible to be autistic and not constantly trample over people's comfort and boundaries. They don't have to be mutually exclusive. Of course, before getting to this, I'd like to point out that Jar also has a segment in his video dedicated to disproving his simp allegations and justifying his uncomfortable behavior toward women with, "Well, I do that with everyone," and failing to recognize that that is the problem and not the defense he thinks it is. Because it only further drives home the point that Jar is, and has always been, an unpleasant person to be around. And sure, maybe his friends and fans don't mind or care about how he acts, but considering all the previous times he's gotten cancelled before, this is clearly a problem for the community he currently exists in. And seeing that he's getting backlash from even the commentary bro community, his behavior is also a problem to the community he wants to exist in. So, I don't know, dude. Maybe it's not that we art commentary girls are delicate SJW snowflakes who get triggered by your dark, edgy humor and views. Maybe you're the problem. You know what they say, if drama keeps following you, 9 times out of 10, it's because you're the drama. The next interaction happens 3 days later, and at this point, me, Mally, and the rest of the art commentary crew of Vidcon 2023 are in Anaheim and doing a bunch of fun things like going to Disneyland, exploring Walmart, and actually visiting the con, I guess.
I warned Stream that, I might rearrange the furniture in our bedroom eventually.
Jar asked Mally to meet up again after she told him she didn't want to hang out. She had to tell him 3 more times in this chat alone that she did not want to meet up. Like, at this point, I don't know how much more direct Mally has to be that she did not want to meet you, which is also what I said at the time it happened because it was genuinely freaking Mally out. Want to meet up at 12 at the water fountain? I'm not at VidCon anymore. Going home to rest, so nah. Enjoy your day. I meant tomorrow. I also left. I think it closes at 9 or 10 p.m. Nah, I'm good. I got a lot to do over VidCon as is. Alright, but what do you look like? Because the badges are too hard to read fast. Also, I can't hear everyone's voices at the same time. I don't really want to meet up. Don't want to talk about YouTube/work/drama. Don't want to talk about the video and Twitter stuff. Just vibing with my girls. I didn't want to talk about any of that. Just want to say hello and have a handshake and leave. But it was a really bad time for all of this drama to go down right before the con. To be honest, it's not because of any drama. I just want to spend time with my friends and enjoy my VidCon meet and greets and stuff. Don't think it's a drama thing, just doing my own thing on holiday. And if you're wondering, "Aw, you're being mean. Why not just meet up with Jar? Maybe it might be a fun time." Well, this was the kind of shit he was saying to Mally before the whole Twitter spat happened. "I'm going to VidCon." "Oh, cool. Might see you there then." "Nice. Can't wait for you to see how buff I am." "Hey, could I do a commentary therapy with you sometime? I'm doing YouTube full time now, and I want to get a boost where I can get it." "Yeah, I can add you to my list. Although I'm not sure my little platform would boost you much." "Every little bit helps, and I think I need it. I'm really pushing it at my workout. I want you to run when you see my outline." I mean, I'll run from anyone, so I'm not even gonna say anything. You guys feel however you want to feel, but all I will say is that this has an incredibly similar vibe to his interaction with Cindy, and I'll leave it at that. Back to the VidCon chat, he also proceeds to say this. "Okay, but please know I won't be like, 'Bitch, you were too scared to come in VC. Now you have nowhere to run and I got a gun. I really just wanted to talk for 15 seconds, then fuck off. I mean, you did chat with Harley a little. I hope it wasn't about me." And Mally reasonably responds, "Okay, that's a bit freaky that you'd even think that. Didn't cross my mind." Jar, what the fuck? Men, if there are any men watching this video, if you are trying to meet up with a woman who is already apprehensive of you and has expressed several times, very directly, that she does not want to meet up with you, first of all, what the fuck are you doing? But second of all, don't then joke about the absolute worst case scenario of cornering them with guns, because that will not make them change their mind. Crazy, I know. And because Jar was whining that nobody ever tells him why the things that he does makes people uncomfortable, I'll tell you why. Because somehow it's not abundantly clear enough. So let me take a page out of Jar's book, because that seems to be the only way he understands things is when he relates them to his own way of thinking. So we're gonna make broad, sweeping generalizations about people. Jar, you are the kind of person we would typically expect to actualize that kind of joke. And yeah, we know Vidcon has a strict bag checking policy to make sure that no one could bring any dangerous items into the con, but Jar is still much bigger than Mally and has bragged to her previously about hitting the gym and getting strong. Coupled with his behavior and the things he says, this was the reason why we even had that protective circle for Mally to begin with, because that is the image you have constructed for yourself on the internet. It'd be more foolish for Mally to not practice caution around you, especially when she doesn't know you that well and has never met you before in person. Heck, it was a risk for us to meet up with each other and stay in an Airbnb together. We were stretching the bounds of stranger danger paper thin already. And Jar himself knows he makes people, mostly women, uncomfortable because he said that he lost jobs over it and he knew he had to stop, so he can't really plead ignorance here.
I've actually lost jobs because of this, making jokes like this. Sometimes, and after a while, I started avoiding female coworkers, and then I started avoiding coworkers altogether because I was just like, "What's wrong with me? What am I doing wrong?"
Anyway, the chat goes on. Mally says, "And well, yeah, Harley's in our group. They're our mate. So I've been chatting with them a bunch about basically everything, but that has no influence on this." Alright, I'll leave you be. I wish Leo and Peaches went to the con so we could hang. Almost everyone I knew isn't going this year. It was super bad timing that shit went down because, to be honest, I wanted to hang with Harley. But it was a long time coming ever since the Seth drama. I won't show you our DMs, but I hope we can talk things out in a call with Leo. I don't know what the Seth thing is. I don't think there's anything to sort out. You and Harl should just separate and move on. Friendship over. Leo can't mediate for a friendship, nor should he. Also, I don't care about that stuff. I just don't want to meet up. Okay, I'll trust you. I also just find it interesting how Jar immediately hones in on the fact that Mally met up with Harley and chatted with them because, no duh, that's what happens when you don't burn bridges and maintain positive relationships with people. If you wanted to meet up with Harley, then maybe don't act a fool online and expect that people are just gonna be cool with you. And moreover, the ego of this man to assume that the topic Mally would choose to discuss with Harley during a short encounter upon meeting them for the first time in person is him. Just how important do you think you are, Jar? That you think everyone is constantly and exclusively thinking and talking about you? Either you are just that paranoid that you think everyone is out to get you, or you simply believe everyone's lives revolve around you, like a toddler or adolescent that hasn't developed an awareness of other people and outgrow their egocentrism. Or alternatively, like a guilty individual counting the minutes before their crimes are discovered. I'm not saying that's what you are, but I am saying that's how you're coming off, so take your pick. And honestly, this isn't even a guess, because he literally demonstrates this himself. Months after VidCon, when Jar was tweeting publicly at Mally to get on VC with him again, she privately DM'd him, telling him to just let the issue go. And instead of responding, because as you can see in Mally's chat log, he never responded until she confronted him again 2 months later because he still hasn't stopped, he sends the screenshot to Leo Convoy and says this: LOL. I think it's best to honor that request and just not communicate with or about her. She was in a video with me that got 10k views and kicked me from her Discord. I made a tweet. It's not even close. She going to say more about me. We both know she is. They always do. Want me to test and see if I'm blocked? I recommend not doing that. If she says something publicly, that's a different matter. She endorsed Lynn's video. I'll wait for her to say something publicly, which she will because they always do. Let's be honest here. They all wish I was the one with the 13-year-old nudes on my drive. I don't think that's a correct thing to say. Why? They've been waiting for me to slip up forever now. I helped her channel grow. It's all Harley's fault that this is happening. I could make a video and put them all 6 feet under. She's the child who was too scared to get into a call with me. Because not wanting someone to succeed or to slip up isn't the same as wishing they had CP. While Mally's issues with you may have come partially from that spat with Harley, there are other things, which we discussed, that may have played into that as well. I'm saying that if it was between me and Spoctor, they wish it was me. I wouldn't even have said most of those things if we just hung out at the con. I'm sick of the way people treat me. I just want to pull the mask off all of them as they try to do to me every day. I get that, but right now it's best to cool off. If they get stupid publicly, then it'll get addressed. Oh, but Jar totally isn't salty or butthurt that nobody wanted to hang out with him at the con. He doesn't even care. Psh, I don't know. The way he words this kind of implies that he was purposely spreading rumors in his circle about Ponder and Mally as some sort of revenge over them avoiding him. I don't know about you, but to me, that sure sounds like snaky behavior. But anyway, you would think after this debacle, Jar would finally let the issue go because of everyone involved. He is the only one who would look bad. And yet, somehow, Jar doesn't seem to realize this. Somehow, he thinks he is in the right in this situation. So he then proceeds to go around the Senate. Yeah, that cursed Discord group where the infamous Rosa Ray Ramsey call and many others like it happened, telling people that she and Ponder didn't like him because he was mean to Spocter. Because if there's one thing I've noticed about Jar, it's that he is completely obsessed with how he is perceived publicly. If you dare talk badly of him or humiliate him in public, he is never letting that go, ever. And, you know, I'm probably also going to go on his shit list with this video, but hey, at least I'm not accusing you of racism, right, Jar? Just sexism, as you've personally requested.
Like, if you do backstab me, please call me sexist. I'm tired of the racist stuff. Like, I want to be sexist now, okay? Call me homophobic. You know what? Like, I could do that too. Like, here's the thing, I'm way more sexist than I'm racist.
Because this is Jar after Mally confronts him for his snaky behavior. Hey Jar, here you're still talking mad shit in public. Could you not get the fuck off? I'm sick and tired of hearing about the nonsense coming out of your mouth, especially when we both know it's not true. Knock it off, man. And then Jar sends this recording.
Hello, Millie Malware. I can tell you're stressed about this situation, and I am too. I've been dealing with ArtCC bullshit on and off for almost 10 years now. I don't think I said anything untrue about you, but I don't remember everything I've said in every single conversation I've been in. But you gave no examples of what I quote-unquote got wrong, so I'll have to take a guess as to what you were referring to. I've been wanting to talk things out in a call with you so things don't get twisted. I'm not gonna lie, when people in the ArtCC say they don't want to get into a call with me, it's because they know it's easier to twist things through text. I would be more than happy to end things with not just you, but everyone. The problem I have with you is that you were in a video with Linlin, adding your credibility to it. A video that, mind you, has 50% as many dislikes as likes. I haven't even responded to that video yet. A video that goes over shit we talked about a month ago. A video that says you can't call yourself a trans ally if you buy a fucking Harry Potter game. I told the truth about you in the comment I made on Twitter. You had a problem with my Spocter thumbnail. I offered to talk things out with you in private. You refused to. I changed it, and then you had a problem with my video that both Leo Convoy and Hopeless Peaches looked over before I uploaded it. I do apologize for the messages I sent to you as we were both going to Vidcon. I'm not very good at talking through text, and after Leo Convoy pointed it out to me, I see that what I said was inappropriate, and I do apologize for that. That being said, I don't think leaving a comment about you on Twitter and talking to people about what you did on Discord is even close to as bad as giving your credibility to a video that got over 10,000 views. Whichever way you slice it, you threw the first stone. That's something I've never really understood about you ArtCC people. You seem to all really want me to leave you guys alone. Ever since it all started with Geeky Girl Heather, Lulu, and the others, well, they made the first couple of videos on me. In fact, come to think of it, back then I don't think I fought back at all. Doodletones and her friends wanted me to leave them alone, but she made the first video on me. Same with Junkie, Luke, Creepshawart, and the list goes on. Aside from maybe Daft, Kai, and Omnia, I've never started it. If you guys want someone to not bother you, well, a good first step is to not attack them first. Crazy concept, I know. I would love to respect your wishes and walk the other way, but that video is still up. I'm still receiving comments and harassment over it. Even if you guys take it down, well, it still happened. People remember it. Maybe I could respond to it, but how much hate would you and Linlin get if I did that? To give you some perspective perspective, I responded to Doodle Tones roughly over half a decade ago. I was a little guy back then. She's still receiving harassment to this day. And she didn't say every single person who buys a Harry Potter game is a transphobe. I want to make that clear. What are the issues you guys have with me? I did an accent. I don't think buying a video game makes you a bigot. I changed a thumbnail that you guys asked me to, because somehow that thumbnail would have given him a chance to make a comeback even though he no longer had a platform? And I made EDP jokes about a guy who had the nudes of a 13-year-old on his desk drive. But I guess you do care a lot about this situation. Question, where's your video on him? Mal, I understand you're new to being a public figure. Everything you say and do, well, it will be brought up. You're not a small person anymore. What you say has consequences. As much as you guys try to gaslight me saying, Jar, you know you're actually the one in the wrong here. No, I don't. I've been in plenty of dramas before, all of which I've won, and I've heard the same lines over and over and over again. I'll happily go away and do my own thing, but you have to promise me you'll leave me alone. And don't ever act like you're the victim in this situation. You guys do not understand how much I've been pulling my punches.
Oh my god, are you actually trying to intimidate me? Are you serious? Bro, fine. You want your fucking VC? Let's VC. I'm sending this to Leo for now. If you want him there to mediate you or something, I don't mind, but I don't want Leo talking in your defense during a call. I can't unpack every level of fucking stupid everything you just sent me was. But trust and believe, I am furious and exhausted with you.
My fucking god, I told Leonora what I said, or what I sent, you would twist it into a threat. I fucking called it. Holy fucking shit. Like, all it boils down to is, leave me alone, and I'll leave you alone. Ta-da! Fucking... Jesus Christ. Another day in the art CC.
Jar, you are the only fucking person talking about someone here. I haven't said jack and or shit about you publicly. You're the one that can't keep your mouth shut about me. Saying I don't like you because you were mean to Spoctor, to randos in Senate? Fuck off with your victim party. You want your VC, you can have it. And after that, I don't want to see or hear a peep from you. This next voice note is just Jar saying, okay, basically. I'm at work for the next 5-ish hours. Organize something later. I just find it ridiculous that Jar keeps trying to debate people on VC, including Harley, when he has admitted himself that he can't debate very well and certainly can't do so without his roommate being there. And trust me, that is not even an exaggeration, because when the call did actually happen, his roommate was indeed there in the call and pretty much doing most of the talking for Jar. That call is actually public now, so if you want to hear the shit show, go ahead and check out Cope and Seeth's live stream. I sure don't. Honestly, have you no shame for always having your roommate come to your rescue like some damsel in distress, Jar? If you're gonna be sexist, then at least fight your own battles like a real man. Otherwise, it's just self-loathing. I never want to hear Jar complaining about how women have it easier because people will white knight for them. Because at this point, Jar is an honorary woman. And I do want to touch on more about that because Jar is the most spineless, unargumentative, soft-spoken individual when it comes to other men scolding him, but when it's a woman telling him off, then suddenly he grows a backbone and some teeth. You have to wonder if Jar perceives himself to be of low status or rank among other men, so while he respects other men, he only has the courage to go after people he perceives as beneath him. Those are just my thoughts. I don't know if it's true. And now, let's talk about that handshake from hell he gave Ponder that was the other focus of Jar's video, because the way he addresses her in that segment just makes me want to punch a brick wall. So let's just get it out of the way. No, the handshake was not the problem. It was everything around the handshake that was. Jar severely oversimplified the events that happened in his video, and it's a clear attempt to downplay the actual events that took place. See, Ponder never offered to shake Jar's hand. Ponder was handing him a sticker. because she was doing a little meetup thing with her fans where anyone that was able to spot and recognize her got a free sticker that she drew herself. However, Jar was the one who grabbed Ponder's hand.
The first thing I do is reach into my bag, grab a sticker, and hand it to them. When I did, they in turn grabbed my hand, doing a little handshake.
She didn't offer her hand for him to shake. He didn't actually have expressed permission to touch her, but he did so anyway. So just picture you're in a crowded space and you're talking to a complete stranger that just came up to you, and out of nowhere he just grabs your hand. I don't know, if you're a woman, you might be deeply disturbed by the notion, especially if it's an unknown man who is like twice your size, because Jar is twice Ponder's size. Ponder is not a very big person. Moreover, Jar didn't just shake her hand and introduce himself. He not only, according to another friend of ours who was there with Ponder and could hear him better because Ponder was sitting right next to the giant fan that was blowing these bubbles where we were sitting under, used a fake accent like he was trying to conceal his identity, and then only introduced himself after he was already grabbing her hand. And as soon as he did introduce himself, he clasped her hand with both of his and just walked off. And that whole scenario to me just sounds like he was doing a really bad job at trying to imitate a shoujo manga meet cute. And you're thinking, well, what's the issue? He grabbed her hand without her permission or consent, and then he just walked away. Well, why use a fake accent? Why conceal your identity until the last minute? Why didn't you just introduce yourself normally? I don't know. If it were me, and I was meeting a creator I'm mutuals with, I'd immediately introduce myself first so that they knew who I was before even thinking of touching them. But maybe that's just because I respect people's comfort and boundaries, I don't know. And don't you dare bring up the homeschool excuse, because I was also homeschooled and I know this, okay? It's called socializing yourself. Like, genuinely, what was the point of that? Were you trying to talk to Ponder, considering this was your first time meeting her in person? Then why walk away as soon as you introduced yourself? Were you pranking Ponder? Because that would suggest you intentionally tricked her into interacting with you, knowing that she wouldn't have wanted to interact with you if she knew who you were. And I don't know, Jar. If you feel the need to trick someone to get them to interact with you, I'm sure you're fully aware of the extensive damage you've done to people's perception of you, without the ACC's involvement necessary. Thank you very much. Moreover, Jar makes the segment to be way more than just the handshake, accusing Ponder of drawing his avatar in compromising ways without his request or consent, and insinuating that this should be a problem, and the only reason it isn't is because he's a guy. However, didn't you make a whole ass video talking about drawing of people's avatars where your conclusion was that you didn't care if people did it to you? In fact, you'd find it rather attractive.
I mean, if my avatar had massive tits in an hourglass shape, there would be porn of my avatar for days. In fact, now that I think about it, I might go to the shop and get a few, upgrades for my body.
Yet you're calling Ponder out for violating your consent because she drew you in a maid outfit and getting hit on by her OC. And it does look like Jar doesn't respond to her message when she sends that image, but to give you more context, Ponder sent that image while the two of them were in VC, so if he did say something about it, it would have happened in VC, and there's no track record of that. But according to Jar's logic, if he didn't say anything about it then the only reason it's a problem now is because he was clearly planning something against Ponder, right? And Jar just seems to flip-flop a lot when it comes to his treatment of Ponder in general. He will use her name to defend himself over something he's being called out for, and expect her to swoop in to his rescue just like his roommate, because Jar is a perpetual damsel in distress, by saying, oh, well, Ponder did the same thing I'm doing and no one better than I. Wow, kind of like the issue you just brought up about Ponder drawing your avatar in a maid outfit in the midst of you being called out for commissioning a minor for a lewd drawing of Jaden animations. Oh, just so people's assumptions don't run wild, the specific instance I'm talking about here is the fact that Ponder used to represent herself using her OC, who is an Algonquin Indian woman, while she herself is white, and speaking about a lot of racial issues. And when people informed her that this could be seen as her potentially using her identity to leverage her arguments or pretending to be a different race, she immediately changed her YouTube avatar to the one she currently uses, which is closer to her actual appearance in real life. But that doesn't change the fact that the character was an original character for her comic that she also used for her videos. The character is not her. Jar, on the other hand, literally thought it would be funny if he had a black version of his avatar drawn and say that he was a black man.
I decided to reveal my true colors. I, just a robot, am in fact black.
Just to be clear, this goofy motherfucker is like the whitest person I have ever seen.
While also talking about a lot of racial issues. It's two very different things. Am I calling you racist? No. But I am calling you stupid and tactless, and that's the reason you keep landing into so much controversy. It's not your edgy humor, as you so often like to claim, because I would argue one requires wit to be funny, and I believe that is simply beyond you. So what you're doing is simply saying inflammatory things, hoping it passes off as humor, and somehow being surprised when it comes to bite you in the ass. Sorry, Jar, you're just not the edgy cool guy you think you are. If anything, Jar is what you would call a Schrodinger's asshole, which is a person who decides whether or not they're full of shit by the reactions of those around them. But while Jar also uses Ponder as a shield and a superhero to protect him from criticism, at the same time, he was also going around spreading horrible rumors about Ponder to anyone who would listen to him, including Cinny. Jar, you cannot be taking a page out of Yandere Dev's playbook right now, where you are simultaneously hinging your defense on someone else's credibility, while at the same time trying to ruin that person's credibility. Think for a second, Jar. God, men are so emotional. So with Vidcon 2024, there wasn't as much build-up as 2023. Heck, we didn't even know if he was going that year because at this point, essentially, that bridge was completely burnt. There were no more lines of communication between Jar and our friend group. So imagine our surprise when Jar did show up again. Alone, might I add. Now, in his video, Jar claims that he wasn't purposely following us around, and overall, I think either Jar very poorly structured his defense, or he was purposely wording things in a manipulative way, because he essentially addresses the allegation like it's being levied at someone else, and with the way he words things, you'd think he was trying to construct the narrative that he wasn't there at all.
There was another allegation about me hunting them down at VidCon 2024. From the video evidence I have seen,
the video footage just shows them running or hiding from someone who is allegedly me, but they don't show me in any of their video footage. There's not one single shred of evidence that I was looking for them. Sure, I was keeping an eye out for Ponder. If I saw her, I was just going to say, hey, did you see Akumu's new video on you? And then walk away. And that was about it. If there was video evidence of me running up the escalator to catch them, or chasing them around at panels, that would for sure make me look very creepy. But just for the sake of argument, let's take their word on it. Let's say I was hunting them down at VidCon and chasing after them. Then what was I going to do when I caught them? Shake their hand again? Sorry, but I'm going to keep going to VidCon. I'm not looking for you guys, and I hope you guys aren't looking for me. We can both enjoy it separately. As much as they say that I'm paranoid, I think they're really the paranoid ones.
Based off the evidence I've seen, Jar, you were there. Don't act like you're hearing about this from a second or third party. You were literally there when it happened, and there are at least 7 other people who could confirm you were there. And this actually happened. In Harley TBS's video addressing Jar and the Cinny situation, they included a clip from Ponder's upcoming vlog for VidCon 2024, which managed to capture the moment they literally locked eyes with Jar. And in that footage, oh look who's there. Yeah, that was me. I too was there to experience it firsthand. And I just want to point out that Jar never blatantly refutes or denies the fact that he followed us or tried to approach us. All he said was that he wasn't looking for us and that the video never showed he was there. And I think that's why he sets up the narrative that we were all just conspiring against him so early on in his response. It's probably to control people's thought process so that they believe him when he says, well, you ACC people were all plotting my downfall, so of course you'd corroborate each other's stories.
Well, that's what the ArtCC does. They control the narrative. They say you're going to be sexist, racist, ableist, transphobic before your video even comes out. They always do this shit.
And his main defense, really, is that he wasn't caught on camera doing it. Okay, Jar, it wasn't like the whole VidCon 2023 incident wasn't public yet at the time, and we were still keeping you anonymous. Next time it happens, we'll be sure to film your pasty little face and disregard all respect for your privacy. Don't worry. I also find it interesting how Jar steadily escalates his statements from least severe to most severe. First, he says, I wasn't looking for them, and they have no evidence it happened. Then it steps up to, sure, I was looking for one person specifically, but if I met them, I would have only asked them one question and left. And then finally, Jar steps up to, well, if I did do it, I wasn't gonna do anything dangerous anyway. And in his defense of himself, he inadvertently confesses to everything he's denying. It's actually a pretty common manipulation tactic used by narcissists to shift blame away from themselves when they've done something they know they shouldn't have. I'm not saying Jar is a narcissist, just that he happened to use the same tactic that a narcissist would. Also, for someone who was just complaining about adding weird embellishments to stories, you sure do enjoy doing it too, Jar. Because no one said that you chased us up the escalator or chased us around at panels. That was just you embellishing.
Not kidding when I say this. I, alongside the rest of the group, literally turned around and ran up the escalator in an attempt to get away from him.
So we've heard Jar's version of events. Now let me tell you what happened from our perspective. This was the first day of VidCon 2024, and the ACC girls met up with Bored Oranges and Harley TBS and a few other people from the Airbnb. As we were walking around the convention hall and checking out the different booths, we got information that Jar was in attendance, and so everyone was like, crap, it's happening again. We were all generally trying to keep an eye out for him, and I happened to be in the group that had both Ponder and Harley in it. The former, who Jar had said he was looking for in his video, and the latter, who Jar blames as the reason his bridges with the ACC girls burned down, and not because of, you know, his own tactless behavior and ineffable personality. As we were walking, we saw the big Descendants booth that was supposed to promote their latest movie, The Rise of the Red, and it was one of the more elaborate booths in the con. They had like this little walkthrough with a bunch of different sets for photos, and at the end of it, you got to do a little glambot shoot, which we did. The clip from Harley's video was when we were lining up to do said glambot shoot, and that was when Harley spotted Jar just literally standing outside the booth and clearly knows we're there because he made eye contact with Harley and he knows what both Harley and Ponder looked like. So I suggested that after we did the glambot shoot, we head straight for the panel that we were planning on seeing anyway because the panels were held in the conference rooms, so it would be easier for us to get away from view and make it harder for Jar to approach us because we'd be sitting and there'd be like a bunch of other people trying to watch the panel. And that was why we ran up the escalator, because the creator-only panels were held on the second floor. When we left the Descendants booth, we basically began speed walking down the convention hall to get to the escalators, and Harley started freaking out because, according to them, Jar was following us and it was a lot like being stalked by Mr. X. So I yelled out, guys, we're gonna be late for the panel, and just started booking it. And that's why we were all so out of breath when we got to the escalator.
Update, we are still avoiding that creator.
We just made eye contact with him. We're not succeeding.
This is why you run. This is why you run away.
We walked right past him.
You like the guy with like
the Captain America shirt.
Oh, that's what he's wearing? Okay.
And Jar denies this happened because of course he would. It makes him look like an absolute loser that no one wants to hang out with. And I don't know, his own reasoning doesn't make sense because he said he was looking out for Ponder, but why would he even want to talk to Ponder when he was already mistrustful of her and talking mad shit about her in his private circles? Sounds like snaky behavior to me, Jar. And sure, once is a coincidence, twice is a bit odd, but it could still be a coincidence. But a third time, that's a pattern. I'm sorry, that's just simply a pattern, especially at an event as big as Vidcon in a venue as large as the Anaheim Convention Center. Oh, that's right, there's a secret third time because despite the sheer size of the Anaheim Convention Center, he still manages to accidentally situate himself with the art commentary girlies. So on the second day of the con, the girls head out once again to just walk around and check out some panels. I actually stayed back at the Airbnb that day, so I wasn't there when it went down. But essentially, we art girlies managed to find this nice little secluded eating spot that was located kind of in the back outdoor area of the convention center. It was away from the food trucks and the main event areas, and you had to go through a smaller door to get to it. Because it was so secluded, there was hardly ever anyone there, and there definitely wasn't as many vendors. So it was a nice spot to chill out and unwind if you're too overstimulated from the crowds. But as the girls sat down to rest and enjoy some food that day, who else would appear if not Jar? According to Mally, he was staring at them the entire time when he walked by, and at this point, he knows what Mally looks like, he knows what Mally sounds like, and he knows what Stream sounds like. And mind you, this area was empty. It would not have been hard to hear them, and according to Stream, there were so many other empty tables available, but where does Jar sit? Right behind Mally. Mally whispered to Stream and Chuli, who was with them at the time, that the person sitting behind her was Jar, but Chuli must have missed it because when they escaped, she kind of got left behind. And according to her, as soon as they left, Jar just started complaining about the current state of Los Angeles or something, which is a bit silly to me because we were in Anaheim. So yeah, Jar, it's a pretty wild coincidence that this happened 3 times over 2 VidCons, especially when we would struggle to meet up with people we actually wanted to meet up with, and yet we kept running into you. But clearly, it was just a wild coincidence because I can't know Jar's intentions here, and unless Jar himself admits to it, none of us ever will. In conclusion, I think Jar is a menace both online and offline. His disabilities do not excuse his behavior, and people need to stop using them as shields whenever he messes up. Fact of the matter is, he is not the only person who has autism and dyslexia in the world, and we don't see those other people behaving the way he does. Defending him in this way is how you will stop him from growing not just as a creator, but as a person, because he knows that it is an effective shield he can utilize in place of actually improving himself. Why fix it if it ain't broke, right? And if you're gonna bring up the homeschooled in a conservative household excuse, I just want to remind you that I was also homeschooled, and so was D'Angelo Wallace and Chad, for God's sake. But do you see them acting a fool like Jar is? No. Fact of the matter is, even without his disabilities or background, Jar is just an asshole. He is an unpleasant person to interact with, and frankly, I'm sick of those conditions being thrown under the bus whenever someone who has them does something shitty, because it paints the entire population of people with those same conditions in a bad light. The conditions he struggles with really aren't as insurmountable as he claims they are. It makes normal functioning more challenging, yes, but most people manage it just fine because at the end of the day, we still need to survive in this world and it won't cater to us. Not all of us have the luxury to have our disability accommodated for in the workplace, let alone use it as an excuse to get out of trouble or underperformance. And this is coming from someone who has autism and is socially stunted because of homeschooling in a third world country, Jar has no incentive to ever change or improve because he still has a following and is still making money with those behaviors. Like most people of similar personalities, they'll just remain exactly as they are regardless of how many people they hurt when they remain that way because it's comfortable. I don't think Jar really has a clear moral compass. His sense of right or wrong seems to be what will get him the most views and subscribers. And I think that is the worst mentality you can have when you make the content that you do. So if Jar wants to continue to exist in this creative space, there are really only two ways I can see him moving forward. Either he changes and improves himself through socialization courses and therapy to preserve his credibility, or he can remain exactly as he is and just find people like him. Stop trying to fit yourself in a space you clearly hate and perceive as beneath you anyway, Jar. We can enjoy our corners of the internet separately. Thank you so much for hanging out in my channel for a while. I hope your skin didn't get too pruny. I'm sorry I had to talk about this topic, but it's been bothering us for like the past year, either having other people talk about it and misrepresenting things, or just, I don't know, spreading outright lies that completely change what actually happened. So, and I felt it was important to talk about. Big shout out to my lovely pond dwellers on Patreon. If you want to become a pond dweller and get extra perks like a free commission from me, join my Patreon. If you want to see more from me, then please follow me on all my social media. If you want to submit fan art or chat with me, join my Discord server. And if you want to see what I'm actually passionate about, like my stories, check out my Wild Word series here on YouTube because that will make me really happy. All the links are in my description, and I will see you all in the next video. Goodbye!